Hello everyone, my name is John, and today we're going to be going over fire safety and prevention in your home. So let's start by going over some statistics. In 2016, 10,750 people died from home fires. 2,735 people were injured. There was $4.9 billion in damage that was a result from home fires. While there are many causes for home fires, a few causes stand out further than the rest. Here's a list of the top causes of home fires between 2010 and 2014. Between 2010 and 2014, 47% of home fires were caused by cooking equipment. This was the leading cause of fire. 15% were the result of heating equipment, 9% were electrical related, 8% were intentionally set fires, 5% were from people smoking, and this was the leading cause of death for home fires, and 4% were from clothes dryer fires. And of the 4%, 31% of the fires were caused due to failure to clean their dryer. With kitchen fires being the leading cause of home fires, it is always important to pay attention while cooking. If you have to leave your appliances, turn them off. If you experience a grease fire in your kitchen, there's 4 simple things that you can do to extinguish the fire. The first thing you can do is put the lid back on the pot. The second thing you can do is use a damp cloth over the pot. The third thing would be to use a K-rated fire extinguisher. And lastly, if you had a grease fire in your oven, the simplest thing you could do is close the oven door. Now let's do a little demonstration. So for demonstration purposes, I have rubbing alcohol in the pot because I didn't really want to have a real grease fire in my kitchen. So the first thing you can do, if you have a grease fire in your stovetop, just simply grab the lid and put it on the pot. Now after you do this, you want to turn the heat off on the stove and move the pot to a colder burner. That way you start cooling the oil below its auto ignition temperature. And depending on the oil, olive oil is around 425 degrees. So once you start cooling the oil off, it's not going to reignite. The second thing that you can do to put out a grease fire on your stovetop, which a lot of people might not know about, is you get a cloth and wet it with water. After you do that, you just put it over the pot and it goes up. Because with the water in the cloth, this actually makes it kind of a tight enough seal to keep oxygen from going into the pot. The third thing you can do is grab a K-rated fire extinguisher. These are rated for grease fires that happen in your kitchen. This one says to stand at least 5 feet away from the fire. So if your pot's on fire, run and grab this. I'm not going to demonstrate this because I want to clean up a huge mess. You're going to stand 5 feet away, you're going to pull the pin, aim, and squeeze. And when you do this, you want to depress until this thing runs out of material inside the extinguisher. And if the fire doesn't go out after that, you need to leave your house and call the fire department. And for oven fires, say you're cooking Thanksgiving turkey and all the fat and grease is laid on the bottom of the stove and by accident you set the oven above the auto ignition temperature of oil. As soon as you open this oven door, you're going to introduce oxygen and air into the oven, which will help the fire or the oil catch on fire. Now if that happens, the last thing you want to do is take the flaming turkey out and throw it in the sink because you're going to splatter flaming oil everywhere. The first thing you should do is just close the oven door back up and turn your oven off. It's going to be on fire in the oven for a little while, but eventually it'll go out after it depletes all the oxygen. So those are the 4 things you can do to put out fires in your kitchen. Heating appliances. While there's not much use for heaters in Florida, they're still used a few days out of the year. Other reasons you may use a space heater is if your coworkers like to freeze you out, or if you happen to live where it snows a lot. Just remember that when you use these appliances to keep 36 inches of clear space around them. Make sure you kids and other pets stay away from them and unplug them when you're done using them. If you do have a fire with one of these, unplug the appliance and use an ABC fire extinguisher if it's safe to do so. And an ABC fire extinguisher that you can get from Home Depot, this is a little 8-pound cylinder, has the instructions on the top. You're going to pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, depress the handle, and sweep side to side. And again, if you run out of the dry chem in this extinguisher and the fire's not out yet, it's time to leave and call the fire department. Now let's talk about electrical fires and one way that they can start. So electricity is everywhere. Every house is usually wired with 120 volt or 240 volt depending on the appliance that's being used. Regular outlets are usually 120 and appliances like your stove and your dryer are 240. When you think of electricity, you can kind of relate it to water in a garden hose. The voltage is the pressure, so the 120 is the pressure of the voltage. The amperage is the flow of water through the garden hose. So a 100-watt bulb would convert into the amps, and that would be your water pressure. And then the resistance would be like a kink in the hose, and that would be like your filament in your bulb. Now electricity doesn't really like resistance. That's why it gets hot and red. It gets red hot, mad. So if we take a regular wall outlet and you have your common black wire here, that's your 120, and it comes into your small little receptacle here. The bigger one people usually get confused with is not the power, that's actually the common. This goes back to the panel. And then you have your ground, which actually grounds this whole outlet and keeps you from getting shocked. So the way fires start with electricity is usually from resistance. Now just like your toaster and your oven, they use resistance to cook your food and toast your bread. But things like this, they don't like resistance because when they get hot they melt and they catch on fire. Now the one way these will catch on fire is if you overamp these, or you put too much flow of electricity through them. And one way to do that is to use a power strip. Those long things you plug into here and you have 10,000 things plugged into it, including your Christmas tree. So what that does is that will overamp this, and then these connections will start getting hot and eventually start melting the plastic that this is made out of, and eventually it'll catch on fire. Another thing that will cause these to catch on fire is loose connections. There's little copper plates in here that if they get loose, they'll actually start arcing to your prongs that you have on your appliance that you plug in. And after a long time, these arcs hit the copper, which causes resistance. And the same thing happens with your power wire here. If this screw gets loose and the wire starts moving around, it's going to start arcing. You won't even know it. And it starts pitting and causing more and more resistance. Enough resistance to where this actually gets hot enough to start smoking and catch on fire. Now the worst thing about these fires is they happen inside your wall in a concealed space. You can't really put these fires out with a fire extinguisher unless it actually is coming out of the outlet and hopefully the dry chemical can make it into the outlet. Otherwise, you get a fire with one of these, the best bet to do is to turn off the power to the circuit, to the receptacle, or if you don't know what that is, just kill all the power to your whole house and then call the fire department, because the fire department has tools that they use to actually break into the wall and put the fire out from inside. Because the fire inside your concealed space in your wall, it's just going to rise up in between the wall and it's going to spread really fast. So that's why you need to call 911. So to prevent these types of fires, just try not to overamp your outlets. This one's rated for 15 amps. So if you had a power strip plugged into this with your toaster oven, your coffee maker, or anything else that has a really large resistor or heating, like this toaster or your stove has a resistor in it, that's why it gets hot and cooks. A lot of large amperage appliances connected to a power strip into this will easily overheat it. And chances are this is rated for 15 amps, but the breaker that this is attached to is rated for maybe 20 or 25. So this will catch on fire way before that breaker ever trips. So that's basically how you're going to help prevent electrical fires in your home. Be nice to these, don't over-amperage them. To help prevent electrical fires in your home, make sure that you use licensed and insured electricians. Make sure that the components that are installed are UL listed, and maintain electrical components. If your wall outlet is worn out, replace it. When you hire an electrician, you can check their license at www.myfloridalicense.com. You can check them by name or by business. So now let's move on to dryer fires. If your dryer vent or your lint catcher looks anything like these pictures, please go home and clean your dryer out, or hire a company to do it. 27% of dryer fires resulted from dust, fiber, or lint. 26% of dryer fires resulted from the clothing actually catching on fire, and only 10% of dryer fires resulted from the appliance itself catching on fire. Of dryer fires, 31% was due to lack of cleaning. The dryers are found in every home, and even though they're the cause of only 4% of home fires, it's a 4% that you can easily avoid just by doing maintenance. Now, our dryer, which only my wife knows how to use for some reason, she just cleaned the sheets, which resulted in a nice little sweater. This is what you do not want to have on your lint catcher every day. So every time you do the wash, or you dry your wash, you want to make sure you clean your lint. This is the #1 reason for dryer fires. The other reason would be an exhaust hose, which is hidden behind here. I can't really show you. That just gets clogged with lint, and what happens with that is the air cannot move over the heating element properly, and it just gets hotter and hotter and eventually catches the whole dryer on fire. So maintenance is the key to preventing your dryer from catching on fire in your home.
Did you know that in multifamily dwellings, NFPA requires clothes dryers to be cleaned and the lint trap maintained and keep the mechanical and heating components free from excessive accumulations of lint? Life safety devices in your home can save your life.
Now, how to protect yourself, your family, and your home. If you don't have any fire extinguishers or smoke detectors in your house, I suggest that you please go to Home Depot and buy some, because they are a must. Now, a lot of people don't know, but if you live in an apartment, NFPA actually requires you to have smoke detectors in your apartment. It's highly recommended that you have one just outside your living quarters, like your bedrooms, and you have a smoke detector in every bedroom. Don't install smoke detectors in your kitchen because you're going to have a lot of false alarms. Now, I live in an apartment, so we have our smoke detector, and we also have a sprinkler system. Now, sprinkler systems are very effective at keeping the fire in check before the fire department shows up, and a lot of times the sprinkler system will actually extinguish the fire before the fire department shows up. Now, smoke detectors you should check every year, twice a year. Usually you check them on daylight savings time, but if they cancel daylight savings time, you'll have to think of something else. And if you have any fuel burning appliances like a gas stove or a gas water heater, you should also have carbon monoxide detectors in your home. And those should also be installed in common areas and in the bedrooms, especially if you have a gas furnace, because you'll never know when the carbon monoxide is poisoning you and is actually has a good chance of killing you without you even knowing it. A lot of these devices like smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors can be monitored by your alarm company, and a lot of times you don't even have to be home for these to activate, and someone actually makes a call for you to go to your house. So you could be on vacation, something catches on fire while you're gone, activates a smoke detector. Your alarm company is going to call you saying, hey, we got a smoke detector, you're in Orlando, go ahead and send the fire department, and they'll actually show up and save your house. So these are a lot of things that you should have in your home. You should have your ABC fire extinguisher. I usually have one in the kitchen and one in each bathroom. A K extinguisher for your kitchen fires. I have one of those as well in my kitchen. Smoke detectors. Remember, you want one in the common area and one in every bedroom. And if you have gas or fuel burning devices like a stove or water heater, you should have those also installed in common areas and in every bedroom. And you got to make sure that you test these annually and at least make sure that the batteries are replaced semi-annually. Because the last thing you want is a dead battery when you have a fire in your home and you don't even know what's going on.